The black Tesla Model S came to a stop on the gravel driveway, dust swirling in the late afternoon sun. Marcus Blake sat behind the wheel for a long moment, staring at the weathered wooden sign that read Harper's Ridge Vineyard, established 2008. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. 8 years. 8 years since he'd driven away from this place, from her, chasing venture capital and board meetings and the intoxicating promise of Silicon Valley success. Now he was worth $500 million, his face on the cover of Forbes, his company revolutionizing cloud computing infrastructure. He had everything he'd ever wanted, except he didn't. The text message that brought him here glowed on his phone screen. Unknown number, no caller ID, just 7 words that had haunted him for the past 72 hours. You left something precious behind. Come see. Wishing you a day full of joy and good luck. Before we begin, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Marcus stepped out of the car, his Italian leather shoes crunching on the gravel. The Sonoma Valley heat hit him immediately, so different from the air-conditioned boardrooms of Manhattan. He could smell it, the earth, the ripening grapes, the wild lavender growing along the fence line. Memories crashed over him like a wave. The vineyard looked different. Smaller somehow, though he knew that was just perspective. The main house needed paint. The barn had new solar panels on the roof. Rows of grapevines stretched toward the hills, heavy with fruit ready for harvest. And there she was. Olivia Harper stood between the vines, her back to him, blonde hair pulled into a messy ponytail beneath a wide-brimmed straw hat. She wore faded jeans, work boots, and a tank top that showed sun-bronzed shoulders. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, checking clusters of grapes, making notes on a tablet. She looked exactly the same. She looked completely different. Marcus's heart hammered in his chest. He'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times on the flight from New York. What he'd say, how he'd explain. But now, standing here, all those carefully crafted words evaporated. He took a step forward, then another. A twig snapped under his shoe. Olivia turned and time stopped. Her green eyes went wide. The tablet slipped from her fingers, landing in the dirt. For 3 heartbeats, neither of them moved. Then her expression hardened into something cold and sharp. No, her voice cut across the distance between them. Absolutely not. Olivia, I turn around and leave right now. I just need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. She bent to retrieve her tablet, brushing dirt from the screen. You made your choice 8 years ago. I got a message. Someone told me to come here. Well, it wasn't me. She turned her back on him, returning to the vines. I don't write to ghosts. That's when Marcus saw her. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, standing at the window of the tasting room. Red hair catching the sunlight. Small hands pressed against the glass. And eyes, amber-colored eyes that Marcus saw every time he looked in a mirror. His daughter. The world tilted sideways. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Couldn't look away from that window where the little girl watched him with curious, intelligent eyes. His eyes. Who is she? The words came out barely above a whisper. Olivia's shoulders stiffened. She didn't turn around. None of your business. Olivia. Emily? Olivia's voice rang out, sharp with something that sounded like panic. Go inside, sweetie. Now. The girl disappeared from the window. Marcus heard a door close somewhere in the house. Olivia finally turned to face him, and the look in her eyes could have frozen the sun. You need to leave. That little girl, she has nothing of yours. Olivia walked toward him, each step deliberate. You gave up any claim to anything here when you drove away and never looked back. I tried to contact you. My lawyer said, your lawyers, she laughed, a bitter sound that had no joy in it. Oh, that's rich. Your lawyers. Did your lawyers tell you I was pregnant, Marcus? Did they mention the letters I sent, the emails, the voicemails? Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. What letters? I never got any. Of course you didn't, because you were too busy becoming a billionaire to care about the life you left behind. She was close enough now that he could see the fine lines around her eyes, the silver thread in her hair that hadn't been there before. I was 2 months pregnant when you left. Did you know that? The world spun. No. God, Olivia, no. I didn't. I wrote you 23 letters. 23. I told you about the pregnancy, about the complications, about how scared I was. Her voice cracked just slightly. They all came back, returned to sender, address unknown. My family. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, pieces clicking into place. When the company took off, my father hired a team. They controlled everything. My mail, my phone, my schedule. They said it was necessary for security, for focus. I thought. You thought what? That I just disappeared, that I didn't matter enough to check on. I thought you'd moved on, that you'd found someone else, someone better. Olivia stared at him for a long moment, then she shook her head. You don't get to do this. You don't get to show up after 8 years and play the victim. I'm not trying to. That little girl in there, her name is Ruby. She's 7 years old. She likes dinosaurs and hates broccoli and asks me every single night why she doesn't have a daddy like the other kids. Olivia's voice was steady now, controlled. And I have to tell her that her father had more important things to do than be here. Each word was a knife. Marcus deserved every cut. Let me meet her, please. No, Olivia, you lost that right. She turned away, heading back toward the house. Go back to New York, Marcus. Go back to your empire. We don't need you here. I'm not leaving. She stopped, looked back over her shoulder. What? I'm not leaving, not until I understand what happened. Not until he gestured helplessly at the house, the vineyard, everything. I have a daughter and I didn't know and I need to. You need to what? Play daddy for a weekend and then disappear again when your board calls. That's not fair. Fair. Olivia's laugh was sharp. You want to talk about fair? I gave birth alone, Marcus. I held my daughter for the first time with no one there to share it with. I've raised her by myself for 7 years. I've been both parents, worked this vineyard 16 hours a day and somehow kept us afloat. So don't you dare talk to me about fair. Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came. What could he possibly say? She was right about all of it. A screen door creaked. They both turned. Ruby stood on the porch, small and brave in purple overalls and light-up sneakers. Mommy. Who's the man with the fancy car? Olivia's entire demeanor changed. The hardness melted away, replaced by something soft and protective. Just someone passing through, baby. Go back inside. But I want to meet him. Ruby came down the porch steps, her curiosity apparently stronger than obedience. Are you famous? You look like you're famous. Marcus crouched down, bringing himself to her eye level. Up close, the resemblance was even more striking. She had his eyes, his nose, the same stubborn set to her jaw that his mother always said he'd inherited from his grandfather. I'm Marcus, he said, his voice rough with emotion. That's a nice name. Ruby tilted her head, studying him. I'm Ruby Harper, I'm 7 3/4. Do you know anything about dinosaurs? A little bit. What's your favorite? Probably the Triceratops. Ruby's face lit up. That's mine too, because of the horns. And they traveled in herds, which means they took care of each other. She looked at Olivia. Mommy, can he stay for dinner? We're having spaghetti. Ruby, no, Mr. Blake has to. Please, we never have visitors. Olivia looked at Marcus and he saw the war happening behind her eyes, protection versus curiosity, anger versus something else he couldn't quite name. One dinner, she finally said. Then you leave. Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Ruby grabbed his hand, her small fingers warm and trusting. Come on, I'll show you my dinosaur collection. I have 47 of them. As the little girl pulled him toward the house, chattering about velociraptors and brachiosauruses, Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. Something that had been locked away for 8 years. He'd come here looking for answers. He'd found something infinitely more complicated. He'd found his daughter. The kitchen smelled like garlic and tomatoes and fresh basil. Marcus sat at a worn wooden table that had definitely seen better days, watching Olivia move around the kitchen with practiced efficiency. Ruby sat across from him, lining up plastic dinosaurs in what she explained was chronological order by geological period. The Triassic period came first, Ruby explained, placing a small plastic creature at the beginning of her lineup. That's when dinosaurs first appeared. Then the Jurassic, which is when the really big ones lived. Then the Cretaceous, which is when the asteroid hit and they all died. She looked up at him seriously. Except the birds. Birds are technically dinosaurs. Did you know that? I did not know that, Marcus said, genuinely fascinated. Most people don't, but it's true. Scientists proved it with fossils and DNA and stuff. She moved a Tyrannosaurus Rex to the end of the line. Mr. Rex here lived at the very end. He was one of the last ones. Olivia set a bowl of salad on the table. Ruby put the dinosaurs away. It's time to eat. But I'm teaching Marcus about. Now, please. Ruby sighed dramatically but gathered her dinosaurs into a small plastic bin. Adults never want to learn about the important stuff. Marcus caught Olivia's eye and saw the tiniest hint of a smile before she turned back to the stove. It felt like a victory. The spaghetti was simple but perfect. Fresh pasta, homemade sauce, basil from the garden. They ate in relative silence for a few minutes, the only sound Ruby's running commentary about her day at summer camp. And then Jessie said that her dad could beat up anyone's dad, which is silly because fighting is wrong, but also I don't have a dad so I couldn't say anything. And then we made friendship bracelets but mine fell apart because I tied the knots wrong. Ruby, Olivia interrupted gently. Breathe. The little girl took an exaggerated breath, then grinned. Sorry. Miss Chen says I talk too much. Miss Chen says you have a lot of important things to say, Olivia corrected. She just wants you to give other people a chance to talk too. Ruby turned to Marcus. Do you have kids? The question hit him like a physical blow. Olivia's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. No, Marcus said carefully, I don't. Why not? You're old enough. Ruby, Olivia warned. What? I'm just asking. Ruby twirled spaghetti on her fork. Miss Chen says questions are how we learn. Some questions are private, Olivia said. But, Ruby. The little girl subsided, but Marcus could see her mind working, cataloging questions for later. After dinner, Ruby insisted on showing Marcus her room. Olivia started to protest, then seemed to decide it wasn't worth the battle. 15 minutes, she said. Then bath time. Ruby's room was exactly what he'd expected. Dinosaur posters on the walls, a mobile of the solar system hanging from the ceiling. Books everywhere stacked on shelves and piled on the floor, a telescope by the window. I want to be a paleontologist, Ruby announced, flopping onto her bed. Or maybe an astronaut, or both. Can you be both? I don't see why not, Marcus said, looking at the photos on her dresser. Ruby as a baby, Ruby missing her front teeth, Ruby holding a massive zucchini from the garden. In every photo it was just her and Olivia. No other family, no father figure. What do you do? Ruby asked. I work with computers. I help companies store information safely. That sounds boring, Marcus laughed. Sometimes it is. Do you like it? He considered the question. I used to think I did, now I'm not so sure. Ruby sat up interested. What would you rather do? I don't know, maybe something outside, something where you can see what you've built. Like farming. Maybe. Mommy says farming is the hardest job in the world. You have to work even when you're tired and sick and sad. And sometimes you do everything right and the weather still ruins everything. Ruby picked at her bedspread. But she also says it's the best job because you're making something real, something people need. Your mom sounds very wise. She is. Ruby's voice was matter of fact. She knows everything except how to fix the tractor. Old Mr. Patterson has to help with that. Olivia appeared in the doorway. Bath time, kiddo, but we're talking. Now, Ruby. The little girl slid off the bed, then surprised Marcus by hugging him. Thanks for having dinner with us, you're nice. She was gone before he could respond, leaving him standing in the middle of the room with his heart in his throat. Olivia lingered in the doorway. You should go. Can I help clean up? I've got it. Olivia, what do you want me to say, Marcus? She crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe. That it's fine you're here, that we can just pick up where we left off. No. I know it's not that simple. It's not simple at all. She looked away, jaw tight. She likes you, Ruby, she likes you, and that terrifies me. Why? Because when you leave, she's going to be heartbroken, and I'm going to be the one who has to pick up the pieces. What if I don't leave? Olivia's laugh was hollow. You will, you always do. As soon as your real life calls, you'll be gone. Marcus's phone vibrated in his pocket. He ignored it. It vibrated again and again. "You should get that," Olivia said. "Sounds important." He pulled out the phone. 12 missed calls from Jennifer, his assistant, 3 from his CFO. Emergency meeting flashing across the screen. "See," Olivia's smile was sad. "Your real life is calling." Marcus silenced the phone and put it back in his pocket. "This is my real life right here. For how long? A day? A week? Until the novelty wears off. I know I don't deserve your trust. I know I have to earn it. But I'm asking you to let me try." Olivia studied him for a long moment. "Where are you staying?" "I haven't checked in anywhere yet. There's a bed and breakfast in town. The Sonoma Rose. Tell Margaret I sent you. She'll give you the local rate." It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't a door slammed in his face either. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet." Olivia pushed off the doorframe. "And Marcus, if you hurt her, if you make promises you can't keep, I will make you regret ever coming back here." "Understood." He walked past her, catching the scent of her shampoo, something herbal and clean. At the front door he paused. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "I'm sorry for everything." Olivia didn't respond, but as he walked to his car, he heard Ruby's voice drifting through an open window, asking her mother if the nice man was coming back. He didn't hear Olivia's answer. Marcus barely slept. The Sonoma Rose was charming, all exposed beams and antique furniture, but his mind wouldn't stop racing. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Ruby's face, heard her laugh, felt the trust in her small hand when she'd grabbed his. He had a daughter. The reality of it kept hitting him in waves. At 6:30 a.m., he gave up on sleep and went for a run through the vineyard roads. The morning air was cool, fog still clinging to the valleys. He ran past other vineyards, past the small downtown with its coffee shops and boutiques just opening, past the elementary school where Ruby probably went. His phone had been vibrating nonstop since last night. He'd been ignoring it, but finally, standing in front of a cafe called the Grateful Grape, he answered. "Where the hell have you been?" Jennifer's voice was sharp with stress. "I've been calling for 12 hours. "I know, I'm sorry. What's the emergency?" Derek Vaughn called an emergency board meeting. "He's making a move, Marcus. He's trying to push you out." Marcus felt his blood run cold. Derek Vaughn, his former business partner, the man he'd beaten in a brutal corporate battle 3 years ago for control of the company. Derek had disappeared after that, licking his wounds. Marcus should have known he'd come back. "When's the meeting?" "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. You need to be there." "I can't. I'm in California." "California? What are you doing in?" Jennifer paused. "Is this about that message you got?" "It's complicated." "Marcus, if you're not at this meeting, Derek wins. He's been buying up shares through shell companies. He's got enough votes to remove you as CEO." Marcus closed his eyes. "How long do I have?" "If you leave now, you can make it, but it has to be now." He thought about Ruby, about Olivia, about the life he'd just discovered. "Book me on the next flight. I'll be there." "Thank God. I'll send a car to pick you up." "Where are you exactly?" "Sonoma Valley." There was a pause. "Sonoma. That's where, I know." Jennifer was quiet for a moment. "Is she okay, Olivia?" "Yeah, she's more than okay." Marcus watched the sun burn through the fog. "She's incredible. And you're leaving again." "I have to. The company. I know. I'll see you tomorrow." After hanging up, Marcus stood there for a long moment. Then he drove to the vineyard. Olivia was already working, this time in the barn, organizing equipment. She looked up when he entered, surprise flickering across her face. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep." He shoved his hands in his pockets. "I need to tell you something." Her expression shuddered. "You're leaving." "I have to go back to New York just for a day or two. There's a situation with the company." "Of course there is." She turned back to the shelves, organizing bottles with sharp, angry movements. "That didn't take long." "Olivia, it's not like that. My former business partner is trying to take over. If I don't show up to this meeting, I lose everything." "Then go." "I'm not stopping you. I'm coming back." She laughed, that bitter sound again. "Sure you are. I mean it. I'll be back by Friday." "Don't make promises you can't keep, Marcus, especially not to Ruby." "I'm not." She asked about you this morning, first thing when she woke up. "Is Marcus coming back today?" Do you know what that does to me, knowing that she's already attached, already hoping, and you're going to? I'm not abandoning her, or you, I just need to handle this one thing. Olivia finally looked at him, really looked at him. You don't get it, do you? This is exactly what happened before. Just one meeting, Liv, just one trip, just one opportunity I can't pass up. And then you were gone. This is different. How is it different? Because now I know what I'm coming back to. They stared at each other across the barn, years of hurt and anger and something else, something neither of them wanted to name, hanging in the air between them. Olivia's phone rang. She glanced at it and her face went pale. What is it? The bank, she answered, stepping away. Marcus watched her shoulders tense as she listened. That's impossible. I paid that. I have the receipt. A pause. No, you don't understand. I can show you. Another pause, longer this time. 60 days, but her voice cracked. Yes, I understand. Thank you. She hung up, staring at the phone like it was a snake. Olivia, they're foreclosing. Her voice was hollow. The bank is foreclosing on the vineyard. What? How? They say I have unpaid property taxes going back 3 years, $30,000. She looked up at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. But I paid them. I have the receipts, the canceled checks, everything. Marcus's mind was already working. Who holds the note on the property? Crestline Properties. They bought it from the original bank 2 years ago. She sank onto a hay bale. I'm going to lose everything. Crestline Properties. The name rang a bell. Marcus pulled out his phone, searching. What he found made his blood boil. Olivia, Crestline Properties is owned by Derek Vaughn. She looked up sharply. Your business partner, former partner, we had a falling out 3 years ago. He's been trying to destroy me ever since. Marcus scrolled through the information on his screen. He must have found out about you, about Ruby. He's using the vineyard to get to me. So this is because of you. Her voice was flat. I'm losing my home because of you. I'm going to fix this. How? You're leaving, remember, you have a meeting you can't miss. Marcus looked at her at the defeat in her eyes and made a decision. I'll handle Derek and I'll handle the vineyard, I promise. Stop making promises. This one I'm keeping. He headed for the door, then paused. Tell Ruby I'll be back on Friday and tell her I'm sorry I have to go. Marcus, but he was already gone, phone to his ear, calling Jennifer back. Change of plans, he said. I need you to pull every file we have on Derek Vaughn and Crestline Properties, everything, and I need it before I land in New York. This wasn't just about saving his company anymore. This was about saving his family. The flight to New York was 5 hours of pure fury. Marcus spent every minute digging through files Jennifer had sent, building his case. Derek hadn't just gone after the vineyard. He'd been systematically dismantling Marcus's company from the inside, buying shares through dummy corporations, planting seeds of doubt with key investors, spreading rumors about Marcus's leadership. And he'd done it all while Marcus was distracted, building his empire, thinking he was untouchable. The car from the airport took him straight to the office. It was 10 p.m. when he walked into the building, but the lights were still on in the executive suite. Jennifer met him at the elevator, tablet in hand, looking exhausted. Welcome back, boss. You look terrible. Thanks. What's the damage? Derek's got 42% of the voting shares. You've got 45. The remaining 13% are split between smaller investors who could go either way. She handed him the tablet. The meeting's at 2 p.m. tomorrow. He's going to make his case for removing you as CEO, citing your recent absences and, quote, erratic behavior, unquote. Erratic behavior. He's saying you've been distracted, missing meetings, making poor decisions. Jennifer paused. He's not entirely wrong. Marcus shot her a look. I'm just saying you haven't exactly been focused lately. I had a good reason. I know, but the board doesn't. She followed him into his office. What's your play? Marcus dropped into his chair, looking at the city lights spread out below. From up here, 53 floors above Manhattan, the world looked small and manageable. But he knew better now. We're going to destroy him. With what? He's covered his tracks pretty well. Not well enough. Marcus pulled up the files on Crestline Properties. He made one mistake. He went after Olivia. I don't understand. The vineyard foreclosure, it's based on fraudulent tax liens. Derek created fake debts to force the sale. Marcus highlighted several documents. But he got sloppy. Look at the dates. These liens were filed before Crestline even owned the note. Which means, which means he was planning this before he bought the property. Jennifer's eyes widened. That's fraud. That's actual prosecutable fraud. Exactly. And if we can prove he's committing fraud in California, we can raise questions about everything else he's doing. His share purchases, his corporate dealings, all of it. But we need proof, real proof, not just suspicious timing. Marcus smiled grimly. Then let's get it. They worked through the night. Jennifer called in favors from contacts at the SEC. Marcus reached out to a forensic accountant he'd used before. By 6 a.m., they had enough to raise serious questions. By noon, they had enough to bury Derek Vaughn. The board meeting started at 2 p.m. sharp. 12 board members sat around the mahogany table, their faces carefully neutral. Derek sat at the far end, looking confident in his expensive suit, his smile sharp as a knife. "Thank you all for coming," Derek began. "I know this is unusual, calling an emergency meeting, but I believe the situation warrants it. Our CEO has been increasingly absent, making decisions without board approval, jeopardizing key partnerships. I move that we remove Marcus Blake as Chief Executive Officer and install new leadership." Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Marcus let Derek talk, let him lay out his case, let him think he was winning. When Derek finished, Marcus stood. "That's an interesting story, Derek, very compelling. There's just one problem." He nodded to Jennifer, who distributed folders to each board member. "It's built on fraud." Derek's smile faltered. "Excuse me, Crestline Properties, your company, the one you've been using to buy up rural properties in California." Marcus opened his own folder. "You've been creating fraudulent tax liens, forcing foreclosures, then buying the properties at auction for pennies on the dollar. It's a nice scheme. Except it's illegal." "That's absurd. I have no idea what you're—" "Save it." Marcus pulled up a presentation on the screen. "We have the documents, the fake liens, the shell companies, the money trail leading directly back to you." He looked around the table. "And here's the interesting part. If Derek is willing to commit fraud in California, what else is he willing to do? How many of those share purchases were legitimate? How many of his corporate dealings can we trust?" The board members were flipping through the folders now, their expressions darkening. "This is a witch hunt," Derek said, but his voice had lost its confidence. "You can't prove. I already have. The SEC is opening an investigation as we speak. So is the California Attorney General's office." Marcus leaned forward. "You wanted to take my company, Derek. You wanted to destroy everything I built, but you made one mistake. You went after my family." The room went silent. "I didn't know you had a family," one of the board members said quietly. "Neither did I until last week." Marcus looked at Derek. "But you knew, didn't you? You found out about Olivia and Ruby and you thought you could use them as leverage, force me to choose between the company and them." Derek said nothing, but the guilt was written all over his face. "Well, here's my choice." Marcus closed his folder. "I'm selling my shares, all of them, to an investment group that actually cares about this company's future, not just profit margins." He looked around the table. "I'm done. I'm done with the games, the politics, the constant fighting. I'm going back to California. I'm going to help save a vineyard. I'm going to get to know my daughter, and I'm going to try to earn back the trust of the woman I never should have left." The board members stared at him in shock. "You're walking away?" one of them asked. "I'm walking towards something better." Marcus stood. "The sale will be finalized by end of business Friday. Jennifer will handle the transition. And Derek," he looked at his former partner, "you're going to drop the foreclosure on Harper's Ridge Vineyard. You're going to erase those fraudulent liens, and you're going to pray that I don't press charges." "You can't." "I can, and I will, unless you fix what you broke." Marcus walked out of the boardroom, leaving behind 12 years of his life. In the elevator, his phone rang. It was Olivia. "Marcus, I just got a call from the bank. They said the foreclosure has been canceled. The liens are being removed. What did you do?" "I kept my promise." There was a long pause. "You're really coming back?" "I'm on my way to the airport right now." "Marcus, I know you don't trust me yet, I know I have to prove myself, but I'm coming back, Olivia, and this time I'm staying. Another pause, then so quietly he almost missed it. Okay. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. Marcus landed in San Francisco at 11 p.m. Friday night. He rented a car and drove straight through to Sonoma Valley, arriving at the vineyard just as the sun was rising over the hills. The morning fog clung to the vines like a blanket, and the air smelled of earth and growing things. Olivia was already awake, working in the garden behind the house. She looked up when she heard his car, surprise and something else flickering across her face. "You came back. I said I would." She stood brushing dirt from her knees. "Ruby's still asleep." "I know, I wanted to talk to you first." He walked closer, keeping a respectful distance. "I sold the company, all my shares, the deal closes Monday." Olivia's eyes widened. "You what?" "I sold it. To a good investment group, people who actually care about the technology, not just the profit." He shoved his hands in his pockets. "I'm done with New York, done with the corporate world. I want to be here." "Marcus, you can't just—" "I can, and I did." He looked at the vineyard, the house, the life she'd built. "I know I can't just walk back into your life. I know I have to earn your trust, so I'm asking you to let me work for it. Literally, let me work here on the vineyard. I'll do whatever you need. I'll learn, and maybe eventually you'll believe that I'm serious about staying." Olivia stared at him for a long moment. "You don't know anything about running a vineyard. Then teach me." "It's hard work. Long hours, your hands will blister, your back will ache, you'll be covered in dirt and sweat and probably some things you don't want to think about." "I don't care." "Why? Why would you give up everything for this?" Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. "Because I spent 8 years building an empire and I was miserable. I had everything I thought I wanted and I was empty. And then I came here and I saw you and I saw Ruby, and for the first time in 8 years I felt like I could breathe." He took a step closer. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to take me back. I'm just asking for a chance to be part of this, part of Ruby's life, part of your life if you'll let me." Olivia's eyes were bright with tears. "You hurt me, Marcus. You hurt me so badly. I know. And I can't go through that again. I won't." "I understand." She wiped her eyes. "If you stay, if you really stay, there are rules. You don't make promises to Ruby that you can't keep. You don't get to be her father one day and gone the next. You're either all in or you're out. There's no middle ground. All in. And you work, really work. No special treatment because you used to be a CEO. You do what I tell you when I tell you, no arguments." "Yes, ma'am." The tiniest smile tugged at her lips. "And you're staying at the bed and breakfast, not here. Understood?" "Okay." She took a deep breath. "Okay, you can start Monday, 6 a.m. Don't be late." "I won't be." They stood there in the garden, the sun burning through the fog, and Marcus felt something settle in his chest. Hope, real, terrifying, wonderful hope. "Can I see Ruby before I go?" Olivia hesitated, then nodded. "She's been asking about you every day, driving me crazy with questions." They walked to the house together. Inside, Marcus could hear movement upstairs, small feet running across the floor. Then Ruby appeared at the top of the stairs, her red hair wild from sleep, wearing dinosaur pajamas. "Marcus!" She flew down the stairs and threw herself at him. "You came back. Mommy said you would, but I wasn't sure and I missed you. And did you know that stegosauruses had brains the size of walnuts, which seems really small, but they survived for millions of years, so maybe brain size doesn't matter as much as people think." "Ruby, breathe," Olivia said, but she was smiling. Marcus hugged the little girl, his throat tight. "I missed you too." "Are you staying, like really staying?" He looked at Olivia, who nodded slightly. "Yeah, I'm really staying. Forever, if your mom will let me." Ruby looked at Olivia. "Can he, mommy, please? We'll see. He has to prove he can actually do farm work first." "I can teach him." Ruby grabbed Marcus's hand. "I know everything about the vineyard. Well, almost everything. I'm still learning about pruning. But I know about watering and fertilizing and checking for pests. And how about we start with breakfast?" Olivia interrupted. "Marcus, are you hungry? Starving?" They ate together, the three of them, pancakes and fresh strawberries from the garden. Ruby chattered nonstop, telling Marcus about everything he'd missed. Her summer camp project on the solar system, the baby rabbits that had been born in the barn, the way the grapes were almost ready for harvest. Marcus listened to every word, committing it all to memory. This, this was what he'd been missing. Not board meetings or profit margins or his name in the news. This, a little girl's laughter, the smell of pancakes, the way Olivia's face softened when she looked at her daughter. After breakfast, Ruby insisted on showing him the vineyard properly. She led him through the rows of vines, explaining everything with the seriousness of a professor giving a lecture. "These are Cabernet Sauvignon grapes," she said, pointing to a cluster. "They're Mommy's favorite because they're strong and they make really good wine. And these over here are Chardonnay, which are more delicate but still pretty tough. And way over there are the Pinot Noir, which are super picky and hard to grow, but Mommy says the challenge makes them worth it." "Your mom sounds very wise." "She is. She knows everything." Ruby looked up at him. "Are you going to learn everything too?" "I'm going to try." "Good. Because we need help. It's a lot of work for just Mommy and me and old Mr. Patterson, and he's getting really old and his back hurts all the time." They walked to the edge of the property, where the vines gave way to a field of lavender. The purple flowers swayed in the breeze, filling the air with their scent. "This is my favorite spot," Ruby said. "Mommy planted these when I was a baby. She says lavender means strength and rebirth, and it smells really good." Marcus looked at the lavender, remembering. He and Olivia had talked about planting lavender here years ago. They'd made plans, dreamed about the future, and then he'd left and she'd planted it anyway. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. "Yeah." Ruby sat down in the grass. "Mommy comes here when she's sad. She thinks I don't know, but I do. I see her sometimes just sitting here looking at the flowers." Marcus's heart ached. "Does she come here a lot?" "She used to, before you came back." Ruby looked at him with those amber eyes. "Are you going to make her sad again?" The question was so direct, so honest, that Marcus had to take a moment to answer. "I'm going to try really hard not to." "Good, because I like having you here, and I think Mommy does too, even if she won't say it." They sat there in the lavender for a while, watching the bees work the flowers, and Marcus thought about second chances, about how rare they were, about how he'd been given something precious and he wouldn't mess it up again. Marcus showed up Monday morning at 5:45 a.m., 15 minutes early. Olivia was already in the barn, organizing equipment for the day. "You're early. Didn't want to be late." She handed him a pair of work gloves. "Put these on, we're pruning today." The next 6 hours were the hardest physical work Marcus had ever done. Olivia showed him how to identify which branches to cut, how to make clean cuts that wouldn't damage the vine, how to move efficiently through the rows. His back ached. His hands cramped, sweat soaked through his shirt, and he loved every minute of it. "You're doing it wrong," Olivia said, appearing beside him. "Cut at an angle like this, it helps the water run off." She demonstrated, her hands sure and practiced. Marcus tried to copy her movement. "Better, but you're still cutting too close to the main stem. Leave a little space." "Like this." "Exactly." She moved to the next vine. "You're learning. I have a good teacher." She didn't respond, but he saw the corner of her mouth twitch. They worked until noon, when Olivia called a break. They sat in the shade of the barn, drinking water and eating sandwiches she'd packed. "How are your hands?" she asked. Marcus looked at his palms, already showing the beginning of blisters. "Fine." "Liar, let me see." She took his hands, examining them. Her touch was gentle, professional. "You need to tape these before you get back to work, or they'll blister worse." "I can handle it." Pride won't help you when you can't hold the pruning shears. She pulled a first aid kit from her bag and wrapped his palms with medical tape. "There, that should help." "Thank you." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Olivia said, "You're doing better than I expected." "Is that a compliment?" "Don't let it go to your head." Marcus smiled. "Wouldn't dream of it." The days fell into a rhythm. Marcus worked from dawn until dusk, learning everything Olivia would teach him. How to check the grapes for ripeness, how to maintain the irrigation system, how to identify and treat common vine diseases. His body ached constantly, but it was a good ache, an earned ache. Ruby helped when she wasn't at summer camp, chattering constantly, asking questions, making him laugh. Slowly, carefully, they built something. Not quite a family yet, but the foundation of one. Then, 2 weeks after Marcus started working at the vineyard, the weather turned. It started with a weather alert on Olivia's phone. Severe thunderstorm warning, possible hail. She looked at the sky, her face tight with worry. "How bad?" Marcus asked. "Bad enough. If we get hail, it could destroy the grapes. We're 2 weeks from harvest. If we lose them now—" She didn't finish the sentence. "What do? We cover what we can, pray for the rest." They worked frantically, spreading protective netting over the most vulnerable vines. Old Mr. Patterson showed up to help, his weathered face grim. Ruby stayed inside, watching through the window. The storm hit at 4 p.m. The sky turned black and the wind picked up, howling through the vines. Rain came in sheets so heavy Marcus could barely see 3 feet in front of him. "The barn!" Olivia shouted over the wind. "We need to secure the barn." They ran through the rain, fighting the wind. The barn door was banging violently, threatening to tear off its hinges. Marcus grabbed it, holding it steady while Olivia worked the latch. Lightning split the sky, so close Marcus felt the hair on his arm stand up. Thunder followed immediately, deafening. "Got it!" Olivia shouted. They stumbled inside, soaked to the bone. The rain pounded on the roof like drums. Through the open door, Marcus could see the vines whipping in the wind. "The netting's not going to hold," Olivia said, her voice breaking. "We're going to lose everything. We don't know that yet." "Look at it, Marcus. Look at the wind. The hail." She stopped, listening. "Oh God, is that hail?" It was. They could hear it now, the distinctive sound of ice hitting metal. Olivia sank onto a hay bale, her face in her hands. Marcus sat beside her. "Hey, we'll get through this. You don't understand. This vineyard is all I have. If we lose the harvest, I can't pay the bills. I can't." Her voice cracked. "I can't lose this place, not after everything." "You won't. I won't let that happen." She looked at him, tears mixing with the rain on her face. "You can't promise that." "I can promise I'll do everything in my power to help." They sat there in the barn, listening to the storm rage outside, and Marcus put his arm around her. For a moment she stiffened. Then slowly she leaned into him. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know. I've worked so hard. 7 years of 16-hour days. Of choosing between paying the electric bill or buying Ruby new shoes. Of lying awake at night wondering if I'm going to lose everything." She looked up at him. "And you just showed up. You just walked back into my life like you had every right to be here. I know I don't have the right. I know I have to earn it. But you're here. You stayed. You're actually here working, helping, and I don't know what to do with that. You don't have to do anything. Just let me help." The storm raged for 2 hours. When it finally passed, they went outside to assess the damage. The netting had held on some vines but torn away from others. Grapes littered the ground, knocked loose by the hail. Branches were broken, leaves shredded, but it wasn't total destruction. Maybe 60% of the crop had survived. "It's not as bad as it could have been," old Mr. Patterson said, surveying the damage. "We can work with this." Olivia walked through the vines, her face unreadable. Marcus followed, giving her space but staying close. "We'll have to harvest early," she finally said. "Before another storm hits. It's not ideal, but the grapes are close enough to ready." "When?" "This weekend. We'll need help, a lot of help." "I'll make some calls," old Mr. Patterson said. "The community will come through. They always do." That night, after Ruby was in bed, Marcus and Olivia sat on the porch watching the stars come out. The air smelled clean, washed by the rain. "Thank you," Olivia said quietly, "for today, for helping." "You don't have to thank me." "I do. Because you didn't have to stay. When the storm hit, you could have gone inside, stayed safe, but you didn't." "Where else would I be?" She looked at him and something shifted in her eyes. "I'm starting to believe you might actually mean that." "I do mean it. I know, that's what scares me." She stood. "I should go to bed. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." "Olivia," she paused at the door. "I'm not going anywhere, no matter what happens. I'm here." She nodded slowly. "Good night, Marcus." "Good night." After she went inside, Marcus stayed on the porch, looking at the stars. Somewhere in New York, his old life was continuing without him. Board meetings, profit reports, corporate strategy. He didn't miss it at all. Saturday morning dawned clear and bright. By 7 a.m., the vineyard was full of people. Neighbors, friends, people from town who'd heard about the storm damage and come to help. They came with picking baskets and work gloves and thermoses of coffee. Ruby was in her element, directing people like a tiny general. You need to cut right here where the stem meets the branch, and be gentle, the grapes bruise easily. Marcus worked alongside Olivia, learning the rhythm of the harvest. Cut, place in basket, move to the next cluster. His hands were sore, his back ached, but he kept going. You're getting better at this, Olivia said, working the vine next to him. High praise. Don't let it go to your head. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Olivia said, I've been thinking. About. About what happens after the harvest, about the future. She cut another cluster of grapes. The vineyard needs a lot of work, new equipment, repairs to the barn, maybe expanding the tasting room. Okay, I can't afford all of that on my own, even with a good harvest. Marcus stopped working, looking at her. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe I could use a partner. Someone who knows about business and finance. Someone who's proven he can actually do the work. She met his eyes. Someone I'm starting to trust again. His heart hammered in his chest. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a stake in the vineyard, a real partnership. Equal investment, equal work, equal say in decisions. She paused. If you're interested. Olivia, before you answer, you need to understand what you're getting into. This isn't a hobby. It's not something you can walk away from when it gets hard. If you're in, you're all in for the long haul. I know. Do you? Because this is your last chance to back out. Once we're partners, once Ruby gets even more attached, she stopped, looking away. I can't do this halfway, Marcus. Neither can she. Marcus set down his basket and took her hands. I'm not backing out. I'm not going anywhere. I want this. The vineyard, the partnership, the life here. I want all of it. Even the hard parts, the failed harvests and broken equipment and sleepless nights, especially those parts because we'll face them together. Olivia's eyes were bright with tears. You really mean it. I really mean it. She squeezed his hands, then let go, wiping her eyes. Okay, then we're partners. Partners. They shook hands, formal and serious, and then they both started laughing. What? Marcus asked. Nothing. It's just we're covered in grape juice and dirt, standing in the middle of a vineyard shaking hands like we're in a boardroom. Some things never change. Some things do. She picked up her basket. Come on, partner, we have work to do. The harvest continued through the weekend. By Sunday evening, all the surviving grapes were picked, sorted, and ready for processing. The community gathered for a celebration, a tradition Olivia explained was as old as the vineyard itself. Tables were set up in the yard. People brought food, wine, music. Children ran through the vines playing tag. Ruby held court with a group of kids, telling them about dinosaurs and grapes and her new dad who used to be a CEO but was now a farmer. Marcus stood at the edge of it all, watching. Old Mr. Patterson appeared beside him, handing him a glass of wine. From last year's harvest, the old man said. Olivia's best vintage yet. Marcus tasted it. Complex, balanced, with hints of blackberry and oak. It's incredible. She's got a gift, always has. Old Mr. Patterson looked at him. You know, I've known that girl since she was Ruby's age. Watched her grow up, take over this vineyard when her parents retired. Watched her struggle after you left. Marcus felt the familiar guilt twist in his gut. I'm not saying that to make you feel bad, the old man continued. I'm saying it so you understand what you're getting. She's strong, that one. Stronger than she knows, but she's been hurt. Deep hurt. The kind that doesn't heal easy. I know. Do you? Because if you're going to be here, really be here, you need to understand that it's not just about showing up. It's about staying, even when it's hard, even when the storms come and the crops fail and the money runs out. That's when she'll need you most. I'm not leaving. Old Mr. Patterson studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. I believe you, and that's saying something because I didn't think I would. Olivia appeared, Ruby on her hip. What are you two talking about? Man stuff, old Mr. Patterson said, winking at Ruby. Very boring. Everything adults talk about is boring, Ruby announced. except dinosaurs and space and sometimes grapes. Speaking of grapes, Olivia set Ruby down, someone needs to thank everyone for helping with the harvest. Ruby straightened up, suddenly serious. She climbed onto a chair and cleared her throat. The crowd quieted, turning to look at her. "Thank you for helping save our vineyard," Ruby said, her voice clear and strong. "My mommy works really hard and sometimes it's too much for just us, but you all came and helped and now we have grapes and we can make wine and we won't lose our home." She paused. "And also my daddy's here now, so we're a real family and that's pretty cool too." The crowd applauded. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. Marcus felt his throat tight. Ruby climbed down from the chair and ran to them. "Did I do good?" "You did perfect," Olivia said, hugging her. "Can we eat now? I'm starving." They ate together, the three of them, surrounded by friends and neighbors and the community that had rallied around them. As the sun set over the hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Marcus looked at Olivia and Ruby and thought about how far he'd come. 2 months ago, he'd been in a Manhattan boardroom, making decisions that affected millions of dollars but meant nothing. Now he was here, covered in dirt, eating barbecue with his daughter, and he'd never been happier. This was what success looked like. This was home. 3 months passed. The harvest was processed, the wine aging in barrels. Marcus officially became a partner in the vineyard, investing not just money but time, sweat, and heart. He moved out of the bed and breakfast and into a small cottage on the property, close enough to help but far enough to respect boundaries. Ruby started second grade. She told everyone about her dad, who used to be a CEO but was now a farmer. Some kids didn't believe her until Marcus showed up for career day and talked about how he traded a corner office for a vineyard. Slowly, carefully, Marcus and Olivia rebuilt what they'd lost. They worked side by side every day. They had dinner together most nights. They talked about the vineyard, about Ruby, about everything except the thing that hung between them, unspoken, until one evening in late October. Marcus had been planning it for weeks. He'd talked to Ruby, gotten her enthusiastic approval. He'd talked to old Mr. Patterson, who'd given him a knowing smile and a firm handshake. He'd even called Olivia's parents, retired now and living in Arizona, to ask for their blessing. Now he stood in the lavender field, the flowers long past blooming but still fragrant, waiting. "Ruby said you needed help with something." Olivia appeared, wearing jeans and one of Marcus's old sweatshirts that she'd claimed as her own. "Yeah, come here." He led her to the center of the field, where he'd set up a small table with 2 chairs, candles, and a bottle of wine from their first harvest together. "Marcus, what is this?" "Sit, please." She sat, looking confused and a little worried. Marcus poured the wine, his hands shaking slightly. "I've been thinking about timing," he began. "About how sometimes the right thing happens at the wrong time and you miss it. And sometimes the wrong thing happens at the right time and you think it's fate." He took a breath. "8 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I left you. I chose ambition over love, and I've regretted it every day since." "Marcus, let me finish, please." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "When I came back here, I told myself I just wanted to know the truth, to understand what happened. But that was a lie. What I really wanted was a second chance, a chance to be the man I should have been 8 years ago." Olivia's eyes were bright with tears. "You've given me that chance. You've let me into your life, into Ruby's life. You've taught me what really matters, and every day I fall more in love with this life we're building, with the vineyard, with Ruby." He paused. "With you. Marcus, I know I don't deserve you. I know I have years of mistakes to make up for, but I'm asking anyway." He stood, pulling a small box from his pocket, and got down on one knee. "Olivia Harper, will you marry me?" The silence stretched out. Olivia stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "I know it's fast," Marcus continued. "I know we're still figuring things out, but I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to grow old on this vineyard. I want to watch Ruby grow up. I want to face every storm and every harvest and every challenge with you by my side." "You're sure?" Olivia's voice was barely a whisper. "You're sure this is what you want? Not the company, not the money, not the—" I'm sure I've never been more sure of anything." She looked at the ring, then at him, then back at the ring. "It's beautiful. It was my grandmother's. She and my grandfather were married for 62 years. They had a small farm in upstate New York. He used to say that the secret to a long marriage was working side by side, building something together." Marcus smiled. "I think he'd like you. I think I'd like him. So is that a yes?" Olivia laughed through her tears. "You haven't let me answer yet. Sorry, I'm nervous." "You nervous? The man who's faced down boardrooms full of hostile investors. That was easy compared to this." She stood, pulling him to his feet. "Yes, Marcus Blake, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on her finger and they kissed, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, they heard cheering. Ruby stood at the edge of the lavender field, jumping up and down. "She said yes, she said yes." "Were you spying?" Olivia called. "Daddy told me to wait here in case you said no, and he needed emotional support." Ruby ran to them, throwing her arms around both of them. "But you said yes, so now we're going to be a real family forever and ever." "Forever and ever," Marcus agreed, hugging his daughter. They walked back to the house together, Ruby chattering about wedding plans and whether she could have a dinosaur-themed ceremony. Olivia laughed, her hand in Marcus's, the ring catching the last light of the sunset. "You know," she said quietly, 8 years ago, if someone had told me we'd end up here, I wouldn't have believed them." "Me neither. But I'm glad we did." "Me too." They reached the house, where old Mr. Patterson was waiting on the porch with a bottle of champagne. "About time," he said, grinning. "I've been keeping this cold for an hour." "You knew?" Olivia asked. "Everyone knew. Small town, remember?" He popped the cork. "To the happy couple, and to second chances." "To second chances," they echoed. And as they celebrated on the porch, surrounded by the vineyard they'd saved together, Marcus thought about how sometimes the best things in life come from the hardest choices. He'd given up an empire, but he'd gained a kingdom. They decided on a small ceremony in early spring when the vines were just beginning to bud. Olivia insisted on keeping it simple, just close friends and family. Ruby insisted on being the flower girl and wearing a dress with dinosaurs on it. "It's my wedding too," she argued. "I should get to wear what I want." "It's not your wedding, sweetie, it's mommy and daddy's." "But I'm part of the family, so it's kind of my wedding too." Olivia looked at Marcus helplessly. He tried not to laugh. "How about this?" he suggested. "You wear a nice dress for the ceremony and you can change into your dinosaur dress for the party after." Ruby considered this. "Can I wear my light-up sneakers?" "Absolutely." "Deal." The morning of the wedding, Marcus woke up in his cottage feeling nervous and excited and grateful. He got dressed in a simple gray suit, no tie, and walked to the main house. Old Mr. Patterson was waiting on the porch, also dressed up. "Ready?" "More than ready." "Good. Because that girl in there deserves a man who's ready." They set up chairs in the lavender field, now in full bloom again. The purple flowers swayed in the breeze, filling the air with their scent. A simple wooden arch stood at the front, decorated with grapevines and white roses. Guests arrived. Olivia's parents, looking older but happy. Jennifer, Marcus's former assistant who'd flown in from New York. Neighbors and friends from town. The local priest who'd known Olivia since she was a child. Ruby appeared, wearing a pale pink dress and carrying a basket of flower petals. She'd compromised on the dinosaurs but insisted on dinosaur-shaped hair clips. "How do I look?" she asked Marcus. "Beautiful, perfect, the best flower girl ever." "I know," she grinned. "Is Mommy ready?" "I think so." Music started, a simple guitar played by one of the neighbors. Everyone stood. And then Olivia appeared. She wore a simple white dress that reached her knees, flowing and light. On her feet, brown leather boots. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders with small white flowers tucked behind her ear. She carried a bouquet of lavender and roses from the garden. She was the most beautiful thing Marcus had ever seen. She walked down the aisle alone, her head high, her smile bright. When she reached Marcus, she handed her bouquet to Ruby and took his hands. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi." The priest began. "We're gathered here today to witness the union of Olivia Harper and Marcus Blake." This is a special ceremony not just because we're celebrating their love, but because we're celebrating second chances. The chance to start over, to build something new from something broken. Marcus squeezed Olivia's hands. Marcus and Olivia have written their own vows. Marcus, would you like to go first? Marcus took a breath. Olivia, 8 years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life. I left you. I chose the wrong path. But somehow, impossibly, you gave me another chance. You let me back into your life. You taught me what really matters. And every day you show me what strength looks like, what grace looks like, what love looks like. His voice cracked. I promise to be worthy of that love. I promise to work beside you, to face every storm with you, to build this life with you. I promise to be the father Ruby deserves and the partner you need. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of my life. Olivia was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Olivia. The priest prompted gently. She wiped her eyes, laughing a little. Sorry, I'm a mess. She looked at Marcus. Marcus, when you left, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd never trust anyone again. I thought I'd raise Ruby alone and that would be enough. But you came back, you stayed. You proved that people can change, that love can survive even the worst mistakes. She took a shaky breath. You've become my partner in every sense of the word. You work beside me, you support me, you make me laugh when I want to cry. And you've given Ruby something I could never give her alone, a father who loves her completely. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I promise to trust you, to build this life with you, to face every challenge knowing we're stronger together. I promise to love you, even when you mess up the pruning or forget to close the barn door or burn the dinner. Everyone laughed. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of my life. The priest smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Marcus, you may kiss your bride. Marcus pulled Olivia close and kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. The guests cheered. Ruby threw flower petals in the air, laughing. When they pulled apart, Olivia whispered, "We did it. We did." The reception was everything they'd wanted. Simple food, good wine, music and dancing and laughter. Ruby changed into her dinosaur dress and light-up sneakers and danced with everyone. Old Mr. Patterson gave a toast that made everyone cry. Jennifer gave a toast that made everyone laugh. As the sun began to set, Marcus and Olivia snuck away to the edge of the lavender field. They stood there, arms around each other, watching the sky turn orange and pink. Happy? Marcus asked. Incredibly. No regrets. Not a single one. She looked up at him. Well, maybe one. What? I wish we hadn't wasted 8 years. We didn't waste them, we needed them. I needed to become the man you deserved. You needed to become the woman who could forgive me. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. They kissed again, long and slow, as the sun set over their vineyard, their home, their future. Ruby's voice drifted across the field. Mommy, Daddy, come dance. They walked back hand in hand, ready to celebrate with their family and friends. Ready to start this new chapter. Ready for whatever came next. Together. What did you think of this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to keep up with all our stories. And don't forget to check out more heartwarming stories right here on the end.